Hello, and welcome to Stuff and Things with Chris. I'm your host, Chris. Today, it's another one of these. So today on Netflix, Nifty or Not, I'm going to talk about Spenser Confidential. This just came out a couple days ago, I think maybe Friday or something like that. It is a movie starring Mark Wahlberg and Wilson Duke. It also has Alan Arkin and Iliza Shlesinger in it. Now, this movie is based on a character called Spenser, and he is a character in a series of detective private eye novels by Robert B. Parker. The first one of these books was written in 1973, and Robert B. Parker basically wrote one every single year until about 2010, 2011. He died in 2010, so one of the books was published after his death. So there's 40 Spenser novels. If you like mysteries and you like private eyes and you like that hard-boiled detective genre, I highly recommend these books. They are easy to read, they are short, and they're a lot of fun. Now, if you're a child of the 70s and 80s like me, you might remember Spenser for Hire, the Robert Urich vehicle, where he played Spenser, and for the 3 years the show was on, they loosely followed some of the plot threads in some of the books and kind of made a little series about it. It wasn't on real long. It was shot all on location in Boston, where all the books are set, because that's where Spenser's from. Also introduced us to Avery Brooks, who played Hawk, who was a big character in probably about the first, probably a little bit halfway into the first books, into the first part of the series of books. Hawk is a mid-level enforcer. He befriends Spenser. They find out they have a very unique moral code, which is very much on the straight and narrow. Justice must prevail, protect the weak, that kind of thing. So they may be operating just on the outside of the law, but they have a lot of respect for each other, and they kind of team up. So in this movie, Spenser Confidential, you have Spenser, played by Mark Wahlberg, and you have Hawk, played by Wilson Duke. Now, both of these guys are fighters. Spenser's a former semi-professional fighter, and Hawk is kind of an up-and-coming fighter. He's doing some training, and both of them work out at a guy named Henry's gym. Henry is played by Alan Arkin. He's absolutely hilarious in this movie. If you love Alan Arkin, and how could you not, he is fantastic in this movie. So the fourth major character in this is Spenser's, I guess you could say, girlfriend, Sissy. She's played by Iliza Shlesinger. And when we open the movie, we kind of get a little bit of backstory and discover that Spenser has been found guilty of assaulting a police chief, a Boston police chief, who he believed was, in turn, assaulting his own wife. So he walked in, and the police chief had just hit his wife, and Spenser kind of lost it and beat the guy up, and so he gets kicked out of the Boston police force, and he gets thrown in prison. So during this time, his girlfriend, Sissy, who is a firecracker, to say the least, not real happy with him. There's some pretty funny scenes where she just kind of loses it and just dresses Spenser down in various situations throughout the movie. So Spenser, he gets out of prison. He's thinking, I'm just going to bolt. I'm out of here. I'm going to learn how to drive an 18-wheeler, and I'm moving to Arizona. Done with Boston. So that's his plan. While he's doing all this, he's starting to get his ducks in a row and trying to deal with his ex-girlfriend, who's still screaming at him, at the same time obviously still cares for him. He's ending up shacking up at Henry's abode, and his roommate is Hawk, and they kind of get to know each other, and there's a little bit of tension there. At the very beginning, and the news report comes out that 2 Boston policemen have been murdered. One of them turns out to be the very police chief who Spenser assaulted 5 years earlier, and the other is a very young, idealistic, no moral ambiguity, straight-laced police detective. They seemingly die in unrelated things, but then they kind of loosely come back, and there's corruption charges and all kinds of stuff like this. And there's obviously a conspiracy. The young police detective who was murdered has left behind a wife and young son, and this really hits home with Spenser, and he starts getting this look in his eyes, and all of his friends, especially Henry and his ex-girlfriend Sissy, are like, oh no, here we go again. He can't stay out of other people's business. He's going to get all in. He's not going to leave. He's going to get stuck here in Boston fighting for the, underprivileged and righting the wrongs. And so that's basically what happens. So he and Hawk, with help from Sissy and Henry, kind of go on this whole big investigation. They're trying to figure out who did what to who and wow and when and how, why. It's a kind of a convoluted, mysterious plot thing. I never was real clear exactly what the end goal was, but the movie Spenser Confidential, it's loosely based on a book written by Ace Atkins called Wonderland in 2013. It was a Spenser novel, but obviously done after Robert B. Parker's death. They kind of added on 3 or 4 extra books. That's kind of a common thing now. When Frank Herbert died, there have been, I'm not even sure how many books with all set in the universe of Dune with all those characters in it. This is kind of the same thing. So it's a Spenser novel, but it's not written by Robert Parker. I haven't bothered to read any of those books because they're not written by Robert Parker, so why would I want to read those? But anyway, that's what they use the basis of this movie on. It doesn't follow it exactly. They changed some things a little bit. In the books, Spenser is a former Massachusetts state trooper. In this movie, he's a former Boston policeman. So, that's a little bit of a change, but they kind of had to do that for the plot, I guess, to make him more invested or something. I don't know. So the movie itself is actually not bad. They do a very good job of getting the character right of Spenser. He's very intelligent. He's very well read. He also has a lot of humor. Now, it can be debated whether or not Mark Wahlberg can pull off a very intelligent kind of private eye, but he gets the humor part right, and he also gets the aspect of Spenser's personality that is the former fighter, where he's willing to fight anybody and he doesn't really care how, and he usually wins. And if he doesn't, oh well, he gets up and walks out, and we'll try next time. I thought Wilson Duke as Hawk was a great casting decision. In the books, Hawk is a giant of a man, a very powerful man, and Wilson Duke is definitely that. They play off together. They play off of each other really well. I already mentioned Alan Arkin is absolutely hilarious in this movie. He plays, his bread and butter, the crotchery old man. So he does that really well. Eliza Schlesinger as Sissy is very funny and very tough as nails. I mean, I guess it's what those of us who don't live in Boston think of when we think of stereotypical Boston women. They're very upfront. They're very confrontational. They're very, just it's a lot of drama. So, she pulls that role off. I don't know if Boston women are actually like that, but most of the ones I've seen in movies, you tend to think they're all like that. I don't know. So, action scenes, pretty good. There's a lot of good fisticuffs in this movie. There's some big car chases and things like that. Plot-wise, gets a little dodgy. It's not real hard to figure out who the bad guys are. It's sort of a secret, but not a very good one. Spenser figures it out real early. And so then it's just a question of him trying to get the pieces involved. It's kind of very convoluted. I don't know. It involves a casino and drug cartels. I was never 100% clear how they put that all together. And then there were dirty cops involved with all 3 of these, and apparently some politicians. I'm not really hear about that, but whatever. So overall, I would say it's definitely worth checking out. It's a pretty fun movie. They definitely set it up so that they can do more of these. Who knows? I mean, you've got 40 books for source material. However, of course, if you start with the one from 2013, it's going to be a little more challenging to do the ones from 1973, 1974, because in this movie, they started from the beginning. So what you're probably going to be looking at is not movies about actual books. They're going to be news stories going forward written by somebody else. It does not really based on any of the books, maybe a little bit, but not really. But again, I would definitely say Spenser Confidential is a nifty on Netflix. Check it out if you get a chance. Also, definitely check out the Robert B. Parker books, the Spenser books. They are fantastic. The first one came out in '73, like I said, and they've been going for 40 years. So there's a lot of them. They're very popular and they're easy to read. Anyway, if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below in the comments section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so when I put out new reviews about various things, you will know. And thank you. I will see you later.